Sebagai salah satu perguruan tinggi negeri favorit di Indonesia, Universitas Airlangga tidak hanya memberikan kualitas terbaik pada sistem perkuliahan. Melalui DPKKA, Universitas Airlangga juga memberikan dukungan kepada para mahasiswa dan alumni untuk mempersiapkan masa depan. Lantas, apa saja peran DPKKA? Mari kita berkenalan lebih jauh.
Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Selamat datang di DPKKA, Direktorat Pengembangan Karir, Inkubasi Kewirausahaan dan Alumni Universitas Airlangga. Sebagai unit pengembangan karir di lingkungan Universitas Airlangga, DPKKA berkomitmen penuh dalam meningkatkan employability lulusan UNAIR. Melalui berbagai program inovatif di bidang pengembangan karir, kewirausahaan, dan alumni, DPKKA UNAIR siap menjadi partner bagi mahasiswa dan alumni Universitas Airlangga agar menjadi talenta berkualitas yang siap mengembangkan dan memimpin di dunia usaha dan industri. DPKKA UNAIR telah bekerja sama dengan lebih dari 800 instansi dari berbagai sektor, baik perusahaan multinasional, nasional, BUMN, hingga lembaga pemerintahan. Melalui kerjasama ini, DPKKA UNAIR bertekad untuk menjadi jembatan bagi instansi mitra dalam mendapatkan talenta berbakat. Bersama kita dapat memajukan dan memperkaya SDM unggul di Indonesia.
Untuk mewujudkan visinya, DPKKA UNAIR menginisiasi berbagai program unggulan yang dibagi ke dalam 3 bidang. Bidang karir, bidang inkubasi kewirausahaan, dan bidang alumni. Career Interest Assessment and Counseling App. Sebagai langkah awal dalam mempersiapkan karir, DPKKA UNAIR membantu para mahasiswa dan alumni dalam mengidentifikasi minat dan bakat melalui Career Interest Assessment and Counseling App. Fitur yang dapat diakses di website DPKKA UNAIR ini berpengaruh besar bagi para pengguna untuk mendapatkan pekerjaan sesuai dengan minat dan bakatnya. Career Buddy Program. Setelah mengetahui minat dan bakat dalam berkarir, DPKKA juga memberikan fasilitas bagi para mahasiswa dan alumni untuk memahami persaingan dunia kerja melalui Career Buddy Program. Program pendampingan karir bersama praktisi profesional ini memberikan pelatihan menulis CV dan surat lamaran, pembekalan wawancara kerja, hingga optimalisasi penggunaan LinkedIn. ATS CV Maker. Tak hanya itu, DPKKA UNAIR juga menyediakan platform ATS CV Maker. Fitur ini dapat diakses secara gratis oleh seluruh mahasiswa dan alumni Universitas Airlangga. Airlangga Career Club. DPKKA juga memberikan media bagi para mahasiswa dan alumni untuk mengembangkan hard skill dan soft skill melalui Airlangga Career Club. Program seminar umum ini mengundang narasumber dari berbagai perusahaan maupun alumni berpengalaman untuk memberikan wawasan seputar dunia kerja. Internship. Untuk mendorong para mahasiswa UNAIR memiliki pengalaman bekerja sebelum lulus kuliah, DPKKA menjadi garda terdepan untuk membuka peluang magang. DPKKA UNAIR menjadi pintu utama bagi para mahasiswa yang ingin menyalurkan potensinya melalui program magang seperti program magang reguler yang diadakan oleh perusahaan, program magang mahasiswa bersertifikat yang diadakan oleh FHCI atau Forum Human Capital Indonesia, program magang dan studi independen bersertifikat atau MSIB yang diadakan oleh Kemenristek-Dikti. Airlangga Career Fair. Program unggulan selanjutnya adalah Airlangga Career Fair, salah satu bursa kerja terbesar di Jawa Timur. Airlangga Career Fair mempertemukan perusahaan-perusahaan ternama dengan ribuan talenta berbakat yang siap bekerja, sehingga alumni dapat terbantu dalam menemukan pekerjaan impiannya dan perusahaan dapat menemukan kandidat potensial dari Universitas Airlangga. Airlangga Career Days. Di era revolusi industri ini, DPKKA UNAIR secara aktif membekali para mahasiswa dan alumni Universitas Airlangga untuk dapat bersaing di tengah kemajuan teknologi digital. Sejalan dengan misi ini, lahirlah Airlangga Career Days, serangkaian workshop karir yang menggandeng berbagai portal pencarian kerja terkemuka. Campus Hiring. DPKKA UNAIR sangat
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guest, Mr. Yanuar Nugroho as the head of Entrepreneurship Universitas Airlangga, and Mr. Willoughby Nikili as our esteemed speaker today. Ladies and gentlemen, to commence this auspicious occasions, let us come together in unity and patriotism. I invite the participants to join in singing the beloved national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya and Himne Airlangga. For the committee in charge, you may share your screen.
Indonesia tanah airku, tanah tumpah darahku. Di sanalah
Okay, first let me introduce myself. My name is Prasilia Lisina from the Directorate of Career Development, Entrepreneurship, Incubations, and Alumni Universitas Airlangga, and I will be the Master of Ceremony for this afternoon's event. And I kindly remind all the participants, if possible, to turn on your cameras and use the virtual background that has been shared in the Zoom chat. Thank you to all the participants who have registered and joined the Erlangga Entrepreneur Club with the theme Cutting Edge Digital Skills in Youth Lab Social Entrepreneurship. And this webinar will be represented by Mr. Willoughby Nicolai, who is currently a research fellowship at the National University of Singapore Chua Tian Poh Community Leadership Center. And as usual, participants who stay with us until the end of the event will receive a certificate and attendance will be taken at the end of the event. So please be sure to stay with us and keep your cameras on. Before we begin today's enlightening sessions, let us take a moment to offer a prayer, seeking guidance and wisdom for our sessions. Pray based on our beliefs begins. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, now it is my honor to invite Mr. Yanuar Nugroho as the head of Entrepreneurship Universitas Airlangga to deliver the opening speech for today's webinar. For Mr. Yanuar Nugroho, the time is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mbak Prasilia Aluisina. Okay, yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you all for joining us today for this inspiring webinar on cutting-edge digital skills in youth-led social entrepreneurship. Yeah, it is with great pleasure that we gather here to explore the transformative power of digital skills in shaping the future of social entrepreneurship, especially through the insight of our distinguished speaker, Mr. Willoughby Nicolai from Singapore. And today we are privileged to have Mr. Lee with us, and he is a visionary in the field of digital innovation and youth empowerment, with a remarkable track record in leveraging technology for social good. Mr. Lee brings a wealth of experience and knowledge that will undoubtedly enrich our discussion. So I encourage each of you to actively engage in today's session. You can ask questions and participate in discussion. So let's seize this opportunity to learn from Mr. Lee's expertise and uncover actionable strategies that can inspire and equip us to harness digital innovation for social impact also. And once again, thank you, Mr. Lee, for joining us today and sharing your invaluable insight. And together, let's explore the boundless possibilities at the intersection of digital skills and youth-led social entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yanuar Nugroho, for the amazing speech. And now let's create a memorable snapshots of our time together. Even though we are not in the same physical space, we can still capture this moment in a virtual photo. So for all the participants, please turn on your camera, and I will wait for a minute. Okay, for all the participants who don't meet any obstacles, please turn on your camera and we will start our documentation sessions. Okay, so we will start our documentation sessions, and let's all strike a pose and give our face smiles. 1, 2, 3. Okay, once again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so once again, we encourage all the participants not to turn off your cameras, because this is only allow us to help create more dynamics and engaging environment in this webinar. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today it's my privilege to introduce our distinguished speakers, Mr. Willoughby Nicolai, Mr. Lee brings a wealth of experience and expertise in the field of social entrepreneurship and community leadership. Mr. Lee is currently serving as a research fellow at the Chuan Tian Po Community Leadership Center at the National University of Singapore. And in this capacity, he focuses on advancing community leadership and fostering social innovations. Mr. Lee holds an undergraduate degree in electrical engineering with a second major in design and innovation and minors in community development and interactive media development. He also holds a master's degree in electrical and electronics engineering from National University of Singapore. And throughout his career, Mr. Lee has acquired a robust set of skills in digital entrepreneurship, design thinking, and project management. And his dedications and accomplishments have been recognized through several certifications such as Global Minecraft Mentor and Microsoft Certified Educator. Mr. Lee also got Global Winner Intel by AI Global Impact Festival 2022. Wow, that's really amazing. And we are really honored to have Mr. Lee to join us today and share insights on cutting edge digital skills in youth led social entrepreneurship. Okay, let's welcome our esteemed speaker. Good afternoon, Mr. Willow B. Mikeli.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for this, and Priscilla for the amazing introduction. So thanks for doing all the searching. I was wondering where you got it from, but I suppose it's from LinkedIn. And I think a huge thank you to Mr. Yanwa for, we met in Malaysia during a conference, and we thought that it's a good idea to really share some of these skills and knowledge with everyone. So we take this session to really have explore it together, explore these skills. And it doesn't stop at just this 2 hours that we have together, but we go out and then continue to improve and create impact in our day-to-day lives and in the future of what we see as work as well, right? So yep, I would share my screen.
Okay. Okay, for Mr. Lee, the time is yours. You may share your screen.
Right, perfect. Yes, able to see my screen, yeah.
Yes, you can
Okay.
see your screen.
Great. Okay, so I think as I continue the session, right, I think because of Zoom's arrangement, I'm not able to see everyone in the chat window. So I think when I start off the sharing sessions, I like to tell people that I love to be interrupted. Right? If you have a question, you can raise your hand, and we can talk about it at any point, right? Because this experience ultimately is for you to take some of this information and interpret it in your own way as well moving forward, right? So I think before we start off the session, selamat siang to everyone, right? And thank you for inviting me. And what we'll talk about a little bit more, I think Priscilla gave a very good introduction earlier. So just to put it in a very humble one slide, this is some of the projects that I've been working on. And I believe in the opportunity and the power of youth to take forward to solve the future challenges that will appear. Right, so in my work that I've been doing, I work with people or students and youth who graduated from science, right, from arts, from humanities, history, all different disciplines as well, beyond just engineering, which I studied in university, right? So there's a lot of opportunity, right, for us to come together, right, even from different countries, and I'll share a little bit more about some of my work that is very regional, right? Is travel to different countries and explore with partnerships with other youth abroad as well, right? So actually, I was sharing with Priscilla earlier that we just came back from Thailand because we did some field work, right? We explored some of the the phenomenon of chatuchak. I think you all heard of it, chatuchak, right? The markets, how these markets actually exist together with the very big malls. So chatuchaks, I think for those who may not have heard, is like small pop-up stores that are individually owned and they sell like maybe street side food. But beside that Chatuchak are big malls, those are very huge corporates with like 10 to 15 stories tall. So we were very interested to explore how these two businesses actually work together in a way that supports each other as well, right? So in today's sharing, we'll talk about technology for sure, like the title has mentioned, but we'll also talk about the very human aspect of how we are going about to explore business opportunities as well as social enterprise as well. Right, so besides doing doing research now, I also run my own businesses, right? And this, I feel that it's something important to do because as you do research, right, it's important to have a physical case study. And I'll talk about an issue which is quite important in Asia, especially in countries like Singapore, which is an aging population, right? So we started to work a bit more with the elderly and how we can actually give them a bit of money to do some work, right? So that they can retire happily, but also continue to contribute to the society as well. Shall share a little about these 3 points. And today we'll have some activities for everyone to try as well, right? So not only will I do the talking, but we'll get everyone into breakout rooms and do some activities. But unfortunately, we only have 2 hours, right? So the activity will only be one part, but I urge everyone to continue to try it at your own time as well, right? So it's called the creating digital narratives. And I use it a lot in businesses, right? When I want to start an enterprise or I want to think about how do I get money, right? Who do I get money from? Right? I always think about creating a story to tell, right, which actually impacts others, right? Okay. So, yeah, I think just to know more about you, right? So I'll leave this link open first. I'll go about the sharing, but I just want to know who do we have in the audience today, right? So with this, we can get a quick, sense from you. Okay. So I'll just paste it in the chat. So I'll put it here. Right. And I think what we want to explore and to hear from you is, are there any ideas you might have? And we'll keep this open because this will be used for some of our activities later. So if you are in groups already, right, you can go into your the group that you're in, and then we'll ideate from there. And you can take this as an exercise to do maybe at your own time as well. I think if we have future opportunities to connect, I will also share some of my profiles, LinkedIn, so that we can stay in touch as well, right, beyond these sessions. Yeah, so I think we'll start off with something like the beginnings and origins, right? So similar to you, when I was in university, I thought that studying in school is one thing, but I was not sure what I wanted to do in the future, right? I studied engineering, but to me, working in the engineering field maybe it's an overnight job, right? You have to when people are awake, you are asleep, and then you work at night, right? So my first internship was with a train company. So when we did train maintenance and some of these works, it usually happens at night. So what happens was that, it's like living in the US, but having a body clock that's the opposite direction. I had very little time to actually engage with family, friends, and loved ones because of my opposite schedule of time. So we thought that, maybe we can think about some ideas, come together and solve them. And I think it's great at University of Alanga. There's also an entrepreneurship club, which allows individuals to come together and think about ideas. But I'll put it there as well, right? That not everybody wants to do entrepreneurship, right? Some people will want to take a more traditional path and work in the industry. That's fine as well. But I would say it's always good to try once, right? Even if it doesn't work out well, at least you tried. So this was something I'll talk about failure first and then maybe successes later, right? So this was our first startup idea. And we talk about this thing, which was the issue of getting help in school, right? And in school, right, one issue was that maybe not, I'm not sure about you, but we were a bit scared to meet our professors sometimes, when we have questions that we don't know the answer to, we don't want to ask the professor. We rather ask our friends, right? And some of our friends usually have side jobs as well. They teach tuition, they teach some primary school students mathematics, for example. So we thought that maybe it would be good to get maybe the senior students to teach the younger students some of these grade subjects as well to learn. So we thought to create a platform, right? So we did, I think with technology and digital nowadays, it's important to kind of like use it for our business and enterprise work. So what we did was we created a tutoring platform where we gave the students a chance to the senior students to teach the younger ones some of these technologies and skills, right? And from there, the students will earn a small amount from the tuition activities. So it was good, but we were having a few clients and students came on the platform, but we met into a few issues as well, right? First is that we were dealing with something called a two-side marketplace. I think in business, there's this term of two-side marketplace, which means that you are dealing with two different profiles of customers, right? And usually in business, we talk about the customer segment that we're addressing, right? So maybe if you're targeting students, now we are targeting the students who are earning, that's one. And second segment was students that are learning, which is number two. And we thought that, look, actually we have to had a lot of time to get the students on board. So we decided to market our solution better. So we did a few TikTok advertisements and WhatsApp messages to the students to get them to be interested. But when we were doing tutoring, right, one thing that we needed to do was to make sure that we pay people well and fast, right? And that was the very reason why it didn't work out, right? Because for example, the student who is learning said that I want to pay only $20, right? But the teacher said I wanted $40 for this activity for teaching. So there was no match between the prices that people were asking for, right? One was asking for a very low amount, the other was wanting to pay only an even lower amount. So it went into an issue where people were not really happy about the split of values, and there were some issues on that as well. So after running this for a year, we got into a venture capital kind of program, but the challenge there was that the revenue streams were not ideal, right? And some learnings. So after around 1.5 years, we discontinued the project. And things that we learned along the way was two things: one internal, one external. Where the internal is important to discuss what we call stakes. So when a business, if four people start a business together, right, it must be clear. It's important to be clear to everyone if you earn money, it goes to everyone equally, or is there some people who are going to be earning more from that profit margin as well. And that really depends on the commitment of students, right? So as you are studying, maybe you have a lot of modules to study this semester and you cannot contribute as much, right? Does it mean that you take less money this time, right? So it's important to talk about money because the issues usually arise because of unhappiness about money, right? It's a fact of business, right? And the second point that we learned along the way was that it's important to make sure that everyone has their own role to play and not overlapping things along the way, right? Because if you overlap, sometimes people will say, no, you are supposed to do it. Then the other person will be like, no, you are supposed to do it. And then there will be unhappiness and arguments that would occur as well, right? So that was the first venture. Didn't go well, right? But we're glad we tried. We learned a lot along the way from there. And when you talk about social enterprise, right, there's this thing that probably you're familiar with. It's called the triple bottom line. So not only do you need to care about profit, but you need to care about people and also the planet in some way. So we'll talk a little bit about people and planet later. But if you're starting a social enterprise, right, this too needs to be considered. If not, how do you actually show the impact that you're creating? And I will create this into a diagram. Some of my research work recently has talked about how you can create a diagram and look at where does your solution lie in this whole intersections. And I think nowadays we talk about the word sustainable a lot. Everything needs to be sustainable because we are not only creating something for us, but for others, right? So the word sustainable is defined very differently by everybody. And sometimes some of our venture capitalists or our funders don't really know what sustainable is. And we always come into the question of, what is sustainable or what is sustainability? So I think we'll just get everyone to also engage in this conversation, right? Inside the chat window, right? Maybe you can type an answer. What is sustainability to you? Okay. So I've typed in the chat, right? What is sustainability to you? So go ahead, no wrong answers, right? We just love to hear from everyone. Don't use ChatGPT to answer it, right? Just in a very quick response will do. Stable in a long time, all right? Yeah, feel free to use the chat window.
Okay, for all the participants who want to share their opinions about what is sustainability, can type your answers in the Zoom chat. Maybe I want to add some informations. Maybe sustainability is actions to reduce negative impacts, visually, in my opinion.
Thanks, Priscilla. Yeah, I think that's an important definition note, right? So when we think about negative impacts, right, we can also think about things we care about, right? Maybe for yourself, you care about, yeah, maybe what are some issues you care about, Priscilla? Start off with you. Any issues or problems in the world that you think are important?
Is maybe for any issues and negative issues in the world that we should be prohibited. Okay, there are opinions against in the chat Zoom, Mr. Lee.
Yep, I'll get to that. Thanks. Right. So Samantha mentioned something that can survive long term without destroying the environment. Yep. So these are some definitions of sustainability. And if you look at it in a very contextualized, a very plain definition, it's whatever we have today, we want the people in 100 years' time to also have. Right? We want to keep today's resources available for others in the future. Right? So today we have a very hot weather, right? We don't want it to get hotter, right? Or like for example, if we have clean drinking water today, we want to make sure that there's clean drinking water available in 50 years, 100 years, right? For yourself when you are older, or even for your children in the future, and grandchildren that you may have in the future as well, right? So these issues concern us, right? And it's really for this generation, right, to think about how can we address some of these problems so that we can live in a future that we are happy and comfortable in as well. So Zayed mentioned that emphasizes importance of maintaining and preserving a balance between human, environment, and economic. Great. Yes. Thank you so much for that. Right, perfect answers. Right. So when you talk about business, another aspect that comes in is profit. Right. So in a very plain manner, if you're not earning from it, what's the point of, you can't really sustain yourself as well. So an unsustainable business can also mean that you are doing impact work, but you're not earning enough for yourself. So that's also another issue, right? And this example over here. So we'll talk about a quick case study. So just by looking at this picture over here, right? What do you think Carousel does? Type in the chat from this picture. Okay. E-commerce. Selling pre-loved things. Right. Right. Yes. So Carousel, like what Debbie mentioned, spot on, exactly. They sell pre-loved items. But who is the one selling pre-loved items? It's actually other users on the platform. So this idea of a carousel started off because sometimes when there's what we call fast fashion, right? Today you buy something, maybe you don't like it anymore, or you buy a shirt that does not fit you. You what do you do with it, right? You want to also earn back the money from the shirt that you may not use or wear. So carousel is a platform actually where it was born out of pre-loved items where you can, if you don't want something, someone else wants it. So there's this phrase which is, one man's trash is another man's treasure, but it's of course available to all, where these material and resources can actually be used by others, right? So this became a peer-to-peer marketplace platform enabled by technology. And where this technology comes in is it that it helps to recommend to you things that you may want or you may like. So for example, like YouTube advertisements, they are targeted towards the videos that you watch, or for those who use Netflix, right, or some video sharing platforms, it will recommend things to you that you like or you watched before. So similar to how carousel works in this case, right, they actually try to recommend you things that you like based on your shopping patterns, and also allows you to both buy and to sell on these platforms. Right, so this was actually created, or why this example was shown, is that it started off with university students who were interested to create a startup to combat fast fashion, which is the changes in fashion, and to reduce waste, right? So you may wonder, right, where does their profit come from? So the profit, right, will come from, for example, doing advertisements, or kind of like selling items on the platform itself, right? So carousel does not, although they are a platform that does that sells pre-loved items or even new items, they don't actually own the items themselves, right? So this is what we call a logistics light company. Logistics light means you don't have to buy a lot of items at the start to begin your commerce business, which is actually a very different model compared to e-commerce, right? Where you actually kind of have to, maybe own the items first, you need to buy the items and then sell them. But this one, they act as a platform. So when technology can facilitate such work, you're able to create startups or ideas to solve problems without very high starting money capital, right? You don't need a lot of capital to start a business, right? But all you need is the people to be interested in what you do and to be committed to your business, right? So today's sharing has two sides, right? One is the technology, yes, but the other one is how to win the hearts and minds of the people, right? To be able to be onboarded or to use your platform, right? And we talk about technology, right? There are these waves of technologies that have been impacting us over the years, right? So maybe for our parents' generation, they were born when the World Wide Web first came out, which is the internet, right? And we have seen now we are experiencing the fourth cycle of technology, starting off with computers. So when we were born, we all had computers already. But those who were born in the 1950s, 1960s was when they first had computers. And then 30 years later, we had the World Wide Web, right? And then, in the 1990s or the early 2000s, we had things like social media. Started off with Friendster, Facebook. I think Facebook will be something we're a bit more familiar with, right? Facebook, they went on to Instagram, Twitter, and now we have, other platforms like Threads, TikTok, so on and so forth as well, right? And now we are experiencing something which is very exciting, right? Which is called the artificial intelligence wave, right? Where artificial intelligence can actually support the work that we do, right? And also create business opportunities as well from there, right? So in the startup that we have been working on here in Singapore, we use artificial intelligence and some of the virtual reality kind of technologies to build social impact projects as well, which I'll share a little bit on later, right? So technology changes, and I'm sure in another 10, 15 years, there will be new technology that will change the way that we behave, right? But one question we need to ask ourselves is that, does technology change us, or do we change technology, right? Meaning to say, are we going to go with the flow with technology, or are we going to be the change makers, right? Using technology to help us do a work and do work better as well, right? So, some of you play Minecraft. I think you've heard of Minecraft, hopefully. So in this day and age, we talk about this idea of skills, right? And you not only need to have one core skill, but also multiple skills as well, right? So for example, if you are studying maybe computer science, you not only need to be good at computer science, but also maybe some other skills like maybe artificial intelligence or maybe sports as well, right? Anything at all. And why this is important is because not only are you going to be good at the future of work can change, where jobs are being removed, right? Jobs are being changed and replaced as well. So how do you ensure that you're ahead of others? Is to also have other skills beyond the one that you study. And the best way to gain these skills, actually, to me, right, is by exploring the community, doing your own business ideas, or even starting up something on your own, right? So, and this, for example, could look like that, where you maybe you are good at coding, but you're also good at other things like designing interfaces, graphics, artwork, and things like that as well, right? So you can think about how this applies to you based on what you study, right? And from there, I think we can always have a good discussion about how this will change in the future as well, right? And we're reaching a point where we're not only just studying and you can throw all your books away and you'll never touch them again. That's not true anymore, right? In this day and age, we need to continue to learn as we work, right? So from this model of learn and then work, right? Now we work, learn, work and learn, work and learn at the same time, right? So learning is the passport to your future, right? And this, when we were in Vietnam, we were looking at this and we saw this little robot that was actually, it represented AI. And we ask ourselves, right? What do you think is the face of artificial intelligence, right? How do you say this is AI? Is it a robot? What is it, right? So yeah, I think if anyone has some things you want to share, what is the face of AI? You can go ahead and share. Okay. Right. Maybe you have your own answers with you, right? The non-hearted existence. Not sure what that means, but you want to explain that? Right. So actually the face of AI in this case is actually a human face, right? Because technology is meant to help us to do things better in a more productive manner and not meant to change the way that we do things, and in the case of removing us from the work, right? The humans are still the most important part of the whole equation. Technology is just meant to help us, right? So for example, if you have maybe skills in using AI, perhaps your starting job might be something which you can use artificial intelligence to help you, right? And in Singapore, some of my friends who graduated, right, because they had some AI skills, right, they actually had a higher starting salary, starting pay. Or some of them who were more proficient in using TikTok, right, were able to get a marketing job as well, right? So school doesn't teach us how to use TikTok, but students learn how to use TikTok on their own, and they help to present themselves in a way which they understand how this technology is used as well, right? So when you look at this, right, this was one of the other ventures we started, which was actually transforming, right, public spaces into something new and different, right? And this became a business model which was scalable, and we actually, till today, we are using it as a case study and an example which I'm doing my research on how we can transform spaces into places which is good to work, learn, and play, right? So this idea of placemaking, which we are doing a bit more research on, is actually how you can put people together with a place. So you can think about some spaces around you where nobody uses, right? Or a space around you which you don't know why is it there for, right? So sometimes places exist, but the way that humans interact with a space are very different, right? And the idea is to observe spaces. And if you're thinking about doing an enterprise or business where you are actually, kind of like changing a space into something which is aligned with a social impact cause that you're interested in, then maybe observing this will be useful as well, right? And for example, what we did was we transformed public spaces or empty spaces into gardens, right? Gardens which actually take food waste and transform it into fertilizer, right? So what we did was, for example, this corridor you have over here was in the heartlands of Singapore, right? For those who, I'm not sure if anyone has been, I think maybe some of you have been to Singapore, right? So this was actually along Orchard Road, which is the place where people shop. A lot of shopping happens. People buy expensive goods. It's always very fancy, right? But there's actually a building over there that was meant for youth entrepreneurship and youth experiences, right? So what we did was we asked for a space. So in entrepreneurship, or at least starting a business, if you don't ask, no one will know what you want, right? So it's always good to ask, and then if the answer is no, at least you asked, right? It's not the case where you missed an opportunity because you didn't ask, right? So we asked, what's this space for, right? You have such a big space over here, and it's shaded. You can see it's shaded over here. What are you going to do with it? And they said, no, nothing. But what we can do is to, we want to maybe attract people to the space. But so we leave it empty. So we negotiated with them that, look, maybe you can give us the space. We will help to attract people, but you give us the space for free, for example. So good enough. Fortunately, we got the space for free. But the trade-off was that we have to do some activities with the people there. So what we did was we had a garden, right? We asked people to donate waste, food waste. For example, like coffee grounds, fruit skin and things like this. And what we did was we transformed it into fertilizer, which could be used to grow a garden, right? So that's how we had this small garden exhibition here. And what we did was we had youth to come in and contribute their own skills to the space, right? Some were good at gardening, so they went about doing that. Some were good at technology. So what we built was actually sensors to monitor using an IoT system on how the soil is performing and do some auto watering as well, right? So yeah, over here we have some youth from Malaysia who came down to see the space. So we always invite youth from other countries or anywhere who are interested in maybe farming, gardening, or sustainability to come and see the space and think about how can you use it for your own means as well, right? And from what we did was the garden. We are now growing vegetables where people can pluck and eat as well. Recently we harvested some tomatoes, right? But it took maybe 4 to 5 months, right, for it to start to fruit as well. So we're all in the idea of experimentation here as well, right? So we moved on and we decided to continue this effort as well. So we went to more public spaces in the community, and then we transformed them into spaces where we can grow gardens. So we became known for creating gardens out of empty spaces, right? So over here we have one which is a greenhouse, right, where we did composting, and then we went on to create fertilizer for gardening. And this garden which we saw just now, and some others which are actually in residential flat areas as well. And from there we felt that we saw, actually people are doing it, but you may ask, where does the money come from, right? So the money comes from selling of these vegetables, right? The government also does fund some of these projects, and corporate companies come in and sponsor some of our work that we do as well, right? So early on, I shared about the programs that we did with Google and Microsoft. So Google and Microsoft come in and also fund some of these technology programs you're doing, right? And we teach people how to use some of their tools as well, right? So these places in Singapore, right? One over here, which is a big public area, and the second is a garden space. These two places are called, one is called Golden Mile Complex, the other one is called Ground Up Initiative. But in Singapore, I think if you all know, it's a very, 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 very small country, right? And there's very little space. So with a very growing population in the country, right? There are not many spaces that we can use for, gardening or farming. And some of the land was actually taken back by the government because they needed it to build residential houses or to build industrial buildings, right? So unfortunately, right, some of these spaces actually got sold and taken away and were forced to move to different places, right? So we saw that actually in the building and constructing space, right, there's opportunity for these spaces to have a bigger say in why they should be there where they are, right? So we went on to this idea of placemaking, where it was to understand or capture stories from people and residents on why this space was important to them, right? So what we were doing is we were trying to propose to keep the space, right, as more of like a consulting business, because if we don't move, if we don't, kind of like change the way that the government or the ministry see the space, all these, places where people gather and our farms will get removed and replaced by industrial buildings, right? So this was a picture taken during some of our sessions where we kind of like thought that, maybe it would be good to keep it. And this lunch over here that we cooked together was actually all cooked by the volunteers that were at the center, right? And it was a plant-based lunch which everyone could enjoy together, which shows that these spaces where people can come together are very important, right? Because as we talk about knowing each other, sometimes, we see each other very often, but we don't know each other personally. And that becomes a challenge and actually a business opportunity we saw, because knowing each other and bringing people together was actually something important, right, in a very small country as well. But I think that's also scalable to, different areas like in universities or in cities and towns as well. And this could be scalable. Yep. So this space managed to be kept, right, but they were relocated, and they continue to engage populations of all different age groups as well. So, for example, over here you see the children, families, people exercising together, and elderly as well, right? So the business model that we're looking at was targeting two key areas, right? Bringing people together, right, based on place and interest. And bringing people together in the same place is easy, but we use technology, right? The emerging technologies that we see today, for example, artificial intelligence, to create interest in the community space that we are working in, right? So, for example, right, maybe youth today want to learn about how technology can be used, how AI can be used. So we conducted workshops in this space on how technology can actually be used to monitor, for example, your agricultural crop health, right? As one example there, right? So so we see some intersections between community of place and of interest, right? And so, for example, cat communities, there are a lot of small cat communities in Singapore which actually take care of the stray cats, right? And they do kind of bring people together by feeding and by creating small houses, right, for the cats as like a business model as well, right? So over here they build small houses for the cats, right? And to make sure that they don't go around and kind of like destroy crops or other places, right, public infrastructure, by giving them a space where they can be their home for them, right? So these are some interesting business models that I never knew existed until I started talking to them, and I was like, wow, actually, this can bring you money, right? It's your interest, right? Pets were their interest, animal welfare, and they were interested in doing their own business. So coming together, they managed to create something which was interesting, and it was quite a nice opportunity there, right? So our business, right, looks at teaching elderly or the seniors technology as well, right? So they pay for some of these programs, and we are moving towards like a service model, right? So although we build our own technology, we also want to teach people so that they can use it as well, right? And the problem in Singapore, or one big issue, is on aging, right? There's a very aging population, meaning that there are more elderly or older people compared to the younger people, right? And this is an issue because sometimes it becomes a burden to society in some way, where one young person has to take care of two older people, right? And what that will result in is actually an imbalance, right? And a strain or stress to the younger people, right? So it looks something like this, right? Our population in the past was a very big younger population, but it has shifted into something which has a larger middle age or older population. And although, right, there are a lot of centers to engage elderly near us or near your homes, we realize that, why do people want to go to these centers? What are some activities that elderly want to do? And there was a lack of activities that managed to engage the elderly. So we came in to actually provide services and to provide equipment to teach elderly on technology, right? So this was something that we put as a value proposition, and we had some sponsors and partners from companies as well as from government to fund some of this work as well, right? And one issue that we face in Singapore is that, for example, look at this picture, right? There's many female, but there's very few male elderly who like to go for activities or these kind of shared activities. And one reason they said was, they prefer to do activities at their own time. They don't want to go into a very social setting where they have to mix or mingle with a lot of others at the same time, right? And social isolation was an issue. So we decided to create activities which were more suited for the male. So they didn't want to do like coloring activities, play chess, that kind of thing. They wanted to do things like gardening, which were more, they will get them to exercise, to sweat at the same time. So by understanding the consumers, we came up with a new way to engage them, which was through farming and contributing back to the society, as well as engaging them happily as well. So some of our activities now engage a majority of the elderly male population instead of just the females. I can see, I think this is a imbalance again. There's more male here, but there was an equal or sort of like more male joining, and some of their children also come in to engage with them, right? So we ask ourselves, right? Our activities need to be sustainable, meaning to say, right? If I am not at this center, can the activity still go on? Because as a founder or as an entrepreneur, you don't want to be needed at the center all the time. So if the activities cannot happen without you, it means you cannot go on holiday, right? So once you go on holiday, the whole business takes a pause. So it's very important to ensure, right, that your business can survive or can carry on without you there, right? So it's good for yourself as well, because you can be enjoying yourself, relaxing, and the business still continues as well, right? So there's some of the things that we talk about, and we decided to actually split our business up a bit more. And this is something that might be applicable in different contexts as well. But we realized that as a social enterprise, we managed to earn a little bit more, but we also needed to partner with some of the other, to go international with some of the business we do. So on the left, we have a volunteerism arm, which started off as a non-profit, but we realized that, look, non-profits, you only can earn a slight amount of money, but you need to venture into businesses which can earn you larger capital. So we started doing like the senior engagement programs and a bit of the technology part in Tinker Things, which is our new business. But we also went to expand globally or regionally as well, when we started doing a bit of the literacy programs and digital AI skilling activities as well, right? So we offer certificate programs which youth or adults can take up, right, in Microsoft's AI programs, right? So I think if there's interest from youth or students or even the faculty to run some of these programs, more than happy to do it, because it's free of charge, right? But we can run the programs because we are given the opportunity by these companies to run them. Right? Who pays for them? Right? They will pay, or even some of the ministries in Singapore pay for such activities. So it's great. And the whole idea is that, as the end consumer, you get to enjoy it, but you don't have to pay for it, right? Yep. So that was some of the things we look at, and we wanted to activate these spaces, right, for bonding, for education, and to build trust, right? So yeah, I think we move on to the narratives portion, which will get you involved in as well. But before we move on, right, are there any questions? So I'll ask if there are any questions, right? If not, we'll
Okay,
next
for all
talk.
the participants who want to ask some questions, may raise your hands or maybe type the questions on the chat box. Okay, maybe if there is no questions, maybe all the participants can ask in the Q&A sessions smoothly.
Yep, sure, sounds good. Okay, so we move on to narratives, right? Creating narratives around technology solutions, right? And I'll show you one of the technology solutions that we created, right? With some of the youth programs that we did, right? And how digital skilling can happen even in the agricultural and farm context as well. So this is something that happens in a more built-up environment, like a city. But we also worked with farmers, right? Which are in areas which are less reached out to in general, right? We talk about the UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, in some of the work that we do, right? And it talks about, like, for example, sustainability that we discussed. And the idea is to maintain these resources for future generations, right? And this is the whole pyramid of it, the goals. And this is a video that I'd like to show you on some of the work that we do in AI, taking AI, Internet of Things, and some of these technology solutions, actually creating opportunity, right, in the social space as well, right? I'll just reshare my screen with sound, and I think we should be good to go. I'll just play a short clip and then just check whether you can hear it. Good? Okay, perfect.
Back in 2017, there were a lot of farmer suicides. And to understand that why these farmer suicides are happening and why the farmers are dealing with such issues, the major problem was they were facing crop failures of unidentified pest attack. In our own village, we saw 4 farmer suicides, and my family suffered a 90% of the crop losses, and they were on the verge of leaving the farming. That made me think that there should be something that is the actual root reason that we need to figure out and we need to solve.
My first impressions of Rishikesh was that he came across as a very hardworking and passionate person, and I was glad to collaborate with someone who shared the same ambition and passion as me. As we spoke about the project, we came to realize that AI could provide us the opportunity to grow and develop a proper scalable product and solution.
Pests, they do have thermal traces. We can detect them through thermal imaging and other things. There are some heat traces that gets formed due to some specific hormones in the leaf plants itself. And there I combine the technology and the biological side of it. In OpenVino, we integrated Kishano for de-blurring the images taken from satellites, and I came up with a solution that would detect both plant diseases along with pests in a very limited amount of time.
It costs less than $1, which makes it remarkably accessible for all strata of the society. Even poor farmers could easily afford the same.
I remember when I got to know about the Kishano project. It truly exemplifies how students can innovate using artificial intelligence and build solutions which not only impact them, but their community at large.
Slowly, we saw that the whole village started using this prototype for a complete season, and they got positive outputs.
The success of Kishano represented to us that our device could truly be revolutionary and bring true change in the society. It also represents to us that hours of hard work, blood, and sweat had come to fruition finally.
I've seen the students not just learn new AI skills, but also develop the technical confidence to be able to present it to a much larger audience and then think about the social impact of what their project could really entail. For us at Intel, they are the future leaders. They are the next generation of innovators and technologists who we are looking forward to see what they're going to do to change the world.
Right. So you can see from the video, right, that some of these solutions actually are created by youth, right, and they also employ some of the more future technologies that we're looking at, like artificial intelligence. Take a problem statement that they care about or is close to them, and actually enact change in a way which is meaningful, but also engages a target audience as well, right? So you can see from their solution, it's all about scale, right? And technology solutions, the beauty of it is that it can scale very quickly, right? With various servers or software as a service, rather than just going employing people to do things. Right? You can employ technology to do things for you in this case, right? And although they said the solution was less than $1, right? If you have so many of these setups that they have, right, revenue is huge, right? It can really scale a solution well. And while your sensors and your technology are doing the work for you, you can be anywhere around the world, right? You need to set up your customer inquiries and certain things, but most of the things run as per normal in this case, right? So artificial intelligence is a huge field. I think that would take a whole topic by itself. But some of the things that we do is to actually design these what we call low cost, low bandwidth technologies, which are able to do remote sensing, right? Imagine in such a farm, there won't be technology, there won't be Wi-Fi available, there won't be very strong signal, and there might be pests, right? There might be insects that will be biting on your sensors, knocking it down, or even getting flooded, right? So it's important to really design solutions which are cost effective for the right population and also understandable by the population. Right? So when we're working on this, right, in this case, you can see that even the farmers, they were not all literate. Right? It means they didn't really understand English or technology as much. But it takes a great deal to actually communicate and allow them to use the technology in their field and trust your technologies. Right? So this was a huge process, but I think really the tenacity or the whole idea of continuing and persevering is very important. And of course, when we talk about problem statements, it's about the who, the why, the what, as well as the how, right? And the how will always come in later. And I think in business, you'll probably have heard this term on fall in love with the problem and don't fall in love with the solution, right? Meaning to say that the means of solving a problem is something that can be flexible, but the problem should be something that is very well defined in a way. So, even when you talk about SDGs, some countries also have other goals that they're addressing, right? So I think within your own community, the takeaway over here is you think about what problems you can solve, right? Or what problems that are solvable, and then use that as a means to engage with the population as well. Yeah. So when in my research that I do, I work with the Singapore International Foundation, right, to take some of this impact research further. Right, and the whole goal of the SIF, the Singapore International Foundation, is to share ideas and experiences through volunteerism and also through impact work, right? And we do some work in East Java, in Bandung, in Jakarta, right, in various areas, right? Unfortunately, it has been very virtual so far. I didn't get a chance, but some of my colleagues and friends managed to go down to these areas, and they were doing programs in early childhood education, right, and also in furthering collaboration in a region. So think about even in ASEAN or in Asia, it's a strong compact that we can work together to really create solutions in the larger market as well. And in Singapore, we really work with a lot of regional partners because Singapore is a small country, right? There's only this number of people you can impact or work with, right? So over the past couple of decades, there were a huge impact that was created through this. And we're always trying to scale or scope out impact and measure it as well, right? So one of the programs that I'm leading with the Singapore International Foundation is called DigiLabs. Right? DigiLabs is a program where we teach youth around Asia digital skills, which include digital marketing, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, as well as data science. Right? So for myself, I teach cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. And what we do as an output from this program is to create ideas and solutions which can scale, right? It can be used in your own society and programs. And there will actually be an upcoming run of DigiLabs in September, right? So if you're interested to learn and take part in it, I think we can always communicate with the faculty in school, right, to share such opportunities. And this goes beyond just learning, but also applying the technology, right? So the DigiLabs program has some grants and funding where we can scale these ideas and programs across the different areas and markets that you're interested to work in as well, right? So for example, our vermicomposting program, we have a large language model, like a GPT model, as well as a digital twin, which uses data to give users the right insights to the technology as well, right? So how do you get started, right, with all these technology and areas or scoping a problem? We'll go back and then we'll do a quick activity and then that will actually give you a rough idea on how perhaps you can forecast or scope out certain issues or challenges that you might want to address as well, right? And this activity is something we call futures, the idea of futures, right? Predicting futures and scoping out futures, right? So I think that will be a good time to look at the questions that we have put up. Right, so I think I see some of you who have responded to the question. One of you studying business, one of them is doing a meal prep business, the other one is on digital, right? Okay, so some of you have given some ideas there. I think we will just do the activity. I'll share the template and perhaps we can do a quick, sprint based on this activity over here. Just give me a second, I'll share the tab. Meanwhile, while it's loading, right? So this is the activity that I normally teach inside entrepreneurship, right? Which is actually predicting the future of your own industry, right? And as youth, right, if you're doing entrepreneurship, you don't think of when you're going to leave entrepreneurship. Maybe you're going to sell your company in the future, perhaps, but you don't think about, I'm going to do this for 5 years and then that's it, right? You think about maybe you're solving an issue and it's a 10-year journey, a 15-year journey, or even a lifetime journey as well, right? So we think about futures. We are trying to predict what can happen in not only like the next 5 years, but we think about global issues that happen and how you can think about solving these issues in the long term as well, right? So how we do it is something we call a peek into the future. It's an activity we do, right? And over here we have this. Yep. So an idea of forecasting futures through articles and finding the right sources, right? So when we are solving the issue, we will not only think about the issue within our own country, our own context, but also on the global scope and scale. How are we actually moving about this activity? And this one, we talk about future, right? Which is this, on scenarios planning. So I'll walk you through the activity step by step, and perhaps we can just do a small activity where you kind of like find some articles related to a problem statement that you're interested in. We can do like a 10-minute thing, right? So why it's important is this thing, where you are currently is this little dot, but you are working towards solving a problem in the future, right? So for example, in this case where, Priscilla, yes?
Excuse me, Mr. We cannot see your share screen.
Oh, oops.
Okay,
Can you see
now
that?
we can share it.
Sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thank you.
Priscilla. Yep. So over here, you're in the present, but you want to move into the future. So for example, right, if you're talking about like on the agricultural case study earlier, they are solving a problem about farmers actually leaving the whole industry of agriculture, right? And if there are no more farmers, our food security is threatened, right? We won't have the accessible or the amount of food that we thought will be available, right? So when they are creating a solution for the farmers to monitor the crops, they're actually thinking about the food security of the future, right? And predicting and thinking about how they can address it today, right? So the first step into forecasting future is to find articles that talk about the future of a problem you are interested to solve, right? And we do this, right? Where step one, right? We find articles. So we can find articles from newspapers, from journals, articles, right? Google search, but we try to avoid blogs and maybe post on Twitter, for example, or like those very commentary posts, right? And then we will start to profile them into this thing called the STEEP framework, where we start to identify if the problem is a social, technology, economic, environment, or political problem, right? So we will do this for a quick while, right? I will share the link to the templates. Maybe if we can just do can we do a breakout? Oh, they are breakout rooms. So I was wondering if you can do a quick activity. Is that good? Good. Okay. So yeah, maybe if you don't have a problem to look at, maybe you can look at the problem of food security, right, that we talked about earlier, and find an article that talks about this problem that exists over here. Right, just now the link that I shared earlier. Okay. So I will share the activity templates with everyone, and then from there you can read out. All right, share the link. So there are templates over here, right? So what you can do is to kind of make a copy of the template and you can try it out on your own. So the instructions are all written in the template itself. You can make a copy and then work on like just a quick example of what issues you care about and what are some articles that talk about this issue that exist. Right. The rest of the activities, you can do it at probably your own time. Right. But we'll try this out in your teams. Right. So yep, I think what we can do is any questions? If not, I think we can just, I guess, open the breakout rooms and then we'll do a quick, and as a team, you can kind of like discuss quickly. Anyone not need to clarify anything? If not, I'll just open 20 rooms, just at random. You can go ahead and join any room and try out the activity.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Lee, maybe I want to clarify for the activity. Okay, so we should to paste the URL in the step 1, understanding your playing field, or how?
Oh yeah, so you can just paste the articles inside, and from there you can just ID it from there. So what we have over here, I'll just share my screen. Yep. So this over here, you can go ahead and find articles, and then put it inside this sheet over here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, maybe I will explain to the audience in Indonesia, maybe ya.
Okay, sure.
Yes, understand it. Oke, mungkin teman-teman untuk aktivitas yang akan dilakukan di sini dari Mr. Lee itu meminta untuk yang dari link G Drive yang sudah dikirimkan itu ada file namanya template. Ketik into our future dan di sini diminta untuk paste link dari artikel itu. Jadi tentang artikel yang terkait dengan masalah-masalah yang memang menjadi concern teman-teman semua gitu. Biasanya current problems facing in the industry, jadi yang biasa dihadapi oleh industri maupun yang ada teman-teman pengalaman sendiri begitu. Jadi untuk slide-nya itu ada di slide yang kelima, di step 1, understanding your playing field. Nah, di situ bisa teman-teman paste untuk artikelnya. Dan di mana teman-teman bisa menemukan artikel itu tadi.
Thanks, Priscilla. So something like this, right? You just put some articles. You can talk about first the issue that you are interested in, or maybe you are working on, and then you paste the articles over there, right? So yeah, I think we'll just do a quick one, maybe a 8-minute activity, so that we can move on to Q&A as well. Just a quick one.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Lee.
Yep.
Okay, when will be end the breakout room?
In a minute, we'll end it.
Excuse me?
In 1 minute.
Okay. Okay, so in 1 minute, the breakout room will be end. Okay.
Yeah, I've already closed the breakout rooms actually. I think you might see them. They will come back in now actually.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Lee, all the participants may have been joined in the main session, so you can continue.
Okay, sure. Sounds good. Okay, yep. So I think from the activity, any group was able to come up with something that they would like to share.
Okay, for all the participants who want to share some things, maybe your discussions in a breakout room with your groups, you can raise your hands. Okay, if there's no participants, maybe I want to share an article.
Okay.
That's okay?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Thanks.
Okay, recently I found an article because I'm from statistics study program, so I have interest in statistics, and I found an article about data analysis and factors of social entrepreneurship tools in complex thinking. So we use principal component analysis on how any factors that significantly affect the social entrepreneurships. Maybe it's about principal component analysis because there are so many factors that have affect the social entrepreneurship in a person's, but we choose about several indicators that significantly affect the social entrepreneurship, especially in the complex thinking, because maybe in social entrepreneurship, we need design thinking to solve the problems. That's what I have found.
Right. Thanks, Priscilla. Right. And so that's actually a very important thing, right? That talks about data as well. Like PCA, right? That deals with multi-dimensional analysis, right? And there's so much data that the world is producing now. How do we focus and sharpen down on a couple of them? Right. So that's a big issue that we are facing. Right. And I think just to give some examples of what we have, so I think from what was shared earlier, this is just an example, right? That you can talk about, in this case, food security, right? That was shared earlier. How can we use, maybe technology to think about it? And like what I mentioned earlier, is like to fall in love with the problem, not so much the solution. So at the start, we don't talk about the problem. We don't talk about the solution first. So these articles are really about what's this problem over here that we want to address. right? So talking about food security and farmers not being able to keep up with the weather patterns, right, that's present. So we talk about these extreme weather conditions and food security being an issue. And so we find 4 articles. And from there, these articles, actually the next step in the process is to actually split them up into whether these articles talk about a social issue, economic issue, environmental issue, technology, and stuff like this, right? With some guiding questions that you can ask yourself. And then next, right, we're actually creating this thing called the axis of uncertainty, right? And we talk about futures, right? And we wouldn't even be able to predict if it's going to rain tomorrow with 100% accuracy. Right? If I ask you if it's going to rain tomorrow, maybe you say, okay, probably not because it's like sunny today. That's a reason. But we can't really be sure. And even when we're talking about the futures, right, we can't be sure that there'll be one future. So we're trying to predict multiple futures, and where does our product or our solution come in? Right. So over here, I've created some scenarios based on the articles, right? And then from there, you can come with maybe a solution title like this, right? On something that what the students did when we worked with them as well, right? So there are these kinds of topics that we can go about and discuss. But I think in the interest of time, we can go ahead with the Q&A segment, right? I think just to wrap up the session that I use this phrase a lot when we are talking about youth action and youth entrepreneurship, which is this over here, right? That youth are not only the leaders of tomorrow, but leaders of today. So you are the change, right? And you can really create something. So open to questions and answers. Q&A segment.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Shirley, for the amazing insight you have shared with us today. So as we move into the Q&A sessions, I encourage all the participants to engage actively in our speakers. So this is your opportunity to delve deeper into the nuances of digital skills and social entrepreneurships. So whether you have questions, Mr. Lee is here to share his expertise and insights. So please feel free to raise your hands to ask the questions directly, or if you prefer, type your questions into the Zoom chat, and I will hope to read them out. So for all the participants who want to ask questions, you may raise your hands, or if you have met any obstacles, you can type your questions in the Zoom chat, and I will hope to read them out. We will wait for the participants. Okay. For all the participants, you may type your questions in the Zoom chat. If you have met any obstacles, that maybe while waiting for the participants to ask questions, I would like to ask the questions. Is it okay, Mr. Lee?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Thanks so much.
Okay, can you provide further explanations by giving maybe specific examples about how data analytics has been utilized in successful youth-led social enterprises?
Right. Well, okay. I think that's the very good question that talks about, the future of skills, right? We talk about digital skills and digital technologies. Whatever we learn in school can be very applicable. And we use data to actually tell the story, right? I think you saw in the example of the agricultural case study, where the data from the live fields actually go to the farmers and to the youth who can monitor the conditions. So in very dangerous settings or very huge landfills, especially when doing farming, it's important that you have the sensors that can gather the data for you instead of you needing to go down and gather the data yourself. And it's very different to use sensors to gather data versus to use our eyes to gather data, right? And sensors can predict the future, right? Just like how we do the futures thinking processes, but what we see is only in the present. But with a lot of data, right, the sensors can actually predict trends that will happen in the future. And that itself is a very big business on predictions.
Okay, thank you for the answers.
Okay.
Okay, maybe for all the participants who want to ask questions, or remind again, for all of you who want to ask questions, can raise your hands. or type your questions in the chat Zoom and I will help to read them out. Okay, Mr. Lee, there's a questions in the chat Zoom. Thank you, Mr. Lee. That was a good presentations. And I have a questions. How much the win rate to predict the future with stuff that you share? Okay. Mr. Lee can answer the questions.
Okay. So what I talk about is predicting multiple futures and kind of like going towards one. I think so far we have used it to kind of like shape our direction, or at least to convince people why things are important. So this tool, I think I can't give you an answer on the win rate because I'm not we're living in the present, and when we do the futures kind of processes maybe a few years ago or things like this, the futures we're talking about is maybe 20 years time. But we are moving towards a future where what we predicted on things like trends in terms of food security are actually coming true, where we talk about, like, in this day and age when we are solving issues about food security. One issue that came up as well is that the soil is not fertile enough, right? So with these kind of trends, and I think you saw in the dashboard that I showed earlier on the articles, some of the articles talk about how soil is important, or it plays a very important role, right, in the whole idea of farming. And so we decided to use the sensors, right, to actually put them in there and gather some data, right? So I would say that I can't be sure if it's a win there, but we definitely have used it to move in a correct direction and to actually use facts, right, to back up what we're doing instead of like, just what we think about it.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Lee. For Kak Rejal Faza. Okay. For all the participants who wants to ask the questions again, you may raise your hands or type your questions on the chat Zoom, and I will help to read them out. Wants to ask the questions, can raise your hands. Okay, maybe for all the participants who want to ask questions, can contact Mr. Lee to keep in touch, maybe.
If we have questions, we can take it. I think there might be questions that we can take live as well. Are there any questions? No?
Okay,
I
one
think
more.
there's a question. Yeah. So Samantha has a question. Let's ask if there are a few tips to be consistent in continuing to develop startup that we want to do, because sometimes you.
Okay, for Kak Samantha Angelus, maybe I will help to read.
Okay.
Thank you for the new insight, Mr. Lee. I would like to ask, do you have any tips how to be consistent in continuing to develop the startup that we want to do? Because sometimes you are only enthusiastic at the beginning of creating their startup. Mr. Lee, you can answer the questions.
Yeah. So I think the team that you start off with may not be the team that you kind of like go on to kind of like work on for many years to come, right? And even for the team that we started off with, right, we actually, when we had changes in the team along the way. And so when we talk about futures as well, it's important because when you talk about a future that you want to address with a problem they are solving, you're thinking a bit ahead, right? And it's important for each member of the team to know their role in the whole process, and also to think about the money of it as well, right? Are you doing this because you're paid to do it, or you're earning salary doing it, or are you doing it in your own free time and perhaps you're thinking about maybe the pay coming in later? So when we first started, we told ourselves like, look, we will not pay ourselves until we earn a certain amount of money, right? And we kept to it. And those who felt that they couldn't do it, couldn't sustain it, they left the team, right? And I think one thing to note is, to sustain that interest, it has to, I think, motivate everyone. So usually when someone comes in the team, I'll ask them, why you choose this? instead of doing something else you can do out there, right? You can always be working in a big company earning good money, but why do you want to do a startup with me, right? So that's the big question that we usually ask people, because along at the start they might see, okay, I'm very motivated, I want to do this and that, but 2 months, 3 months down the road, they might look, if this is not earning me money, I can't do it, right? So it's important to know the motivations of them. And I think another thing that's important to know when to let go, right? If someone in your team feels that they're not contributing enough, or they don't feel that they can contribute to the team any further, right? It's good to let go, because ending on a good terms, I mean, being happy when you leave is important. You don't want to cause future conflict or issues that happen in the future. And I do speaking from experience, because Singapore is really small, the number of entrepreneurs, there are just a few, there are not too many of them. You will bump into them in the future, right? So it's important to also be on good terms with people, and you don't know when they will come back into your life again. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the answers, Mr. Lee. For Kak Samantha Angelis, did it answer your questions? Okay, maybe I will read the next questions from Kak Eduardo Agata. What is an example of real implementations of the sophisticated use of digital technology so that it is truly sustainable, especially in Indonesia or Singapore, especially for the younger generations like me? Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee can answer the questions.
Right. So I think those that I shared were real world implementations, right? So for example, like building those large language models for people to use, and also for doing digital twinning of certain facilities, right? Using the sensors to monitor the soil and create the fertilizer. Those are all monitored on dashboards on our side, right? We don't actually go down to the centers every day, but we automate some of these watering processes and gathering of the soil fertility and moisture, right? And like what Priscilla mentioned, right, on PCA, right, using multiple dimensions of things, right? Soil quality is not only dependent on the moisture or the nutrients, right? There are so many different types of nutrients, so many different types of factors that affect it. So we use artificial intelligence and even data analytics, right, to monitor on a dashboard, so we don't have to go down, right? So I would say that the skills that you learn in school, be it engineering, sciences, humanities, arts, or computer science, right, it's all usable and very applicable in the space, right? But I think one thing about that is the cost as well, right? Especially with AI nowadays, solutions actually are very costly to buy. So if you can build something, it actually will save you quite a lot of money, and also the initial capital. For myself, right, I learned Python in university, right? So I took some time to really explore how you use some of these programming tools to actually explore the fields that you're working in. That's one, right? Creating is one, right? But I think one bigger issue of this real world implementation that we faced was maintaining some of these sensors, right? If you're putting these sensors in public places that we do, right, sometimes there's pests or people might go and touch it, right? So how do you make sure that the solution is safe as well, was one of our very big concerns when we started it, right? But how we got around it was talk to people and make sure you hear from people what are their issues and concerns, and then work with them to address the problems.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee, for the answers, and thank you, Kak Eduardo, for the questions. And maybe because we don't have enough time, okay, there's a keep in touch. So if you want to ask another question to Mr. Lee, you can keep in touch with him. And also, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your active participations in the Q&A sessions with our outstanding speakers. And now I would like to invite Mr. Lee to share his closing remarks before we conclude today's webinar. So, Mr. Lee, the time is yours for your closing statement.
Right. I think thanks everyone for being present in today's session. Right. I think it's good to learn and learn from each other as well. Right. Things that I do is just maybe like a one-way sharing. Right. But I think everyone has good ideas, and when we come together and think about it, there might be other collaboration opportunities that appear. Right. For example, like the Microsoft programs, as well as the DigiLabs initiative I shared. where we can collaborate even further beyond this and learn skills together, right? So I think there's plenty of opportunity and looking forward to how we can keep in touch, right, beyond this and do something amazing that we like to as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much once again, Mr. Lee, for the knowledgeable presentations and what an enlightening conversation it was. Your insights have undoubtedly enriched our understandings. Okay, everyone, before I wrap up this session, I kindly remind you all to fill out the attendance form shared by the committee via the Zoom chat. And please know that this link will only be accessible for 15 minutes for the time the attendance was shared. So for the committee in charge, you may share the attendance form. So please make sure that to complete the attendance and provide your active email address, as certificates will be distributed via email. So while waiting for everyone to complete the attendance, I'd like to inform all the participants that the PKKA website is currently experiencing some instability. So therefore, certificates will be sent to your emails. So for those who don't have an account on the DPKKA website or haven't followed DPKKA Instagram at DPKKA_UNER, please consider to creating an account. So through the DPKKA website and Instagram, you can find internship opportunities, job information, training updates, and even create ATS compatible CVs for free. So moreover, you can also book career counseling sessions, career counseling apps on the DPKKA website. You can seek advice on career interests, talents, job seeking, challenges, and even get your CV reviewed. So counseling sessions can be booked online or offline, depending on your schedule. So okay, everyone, I would like to remind you once again, don't forget to fill out your attendance form shared by the organizing committee in the chat Zoom so you can receive your certificate. Again, this time, the BKK is collaborating with Duta Universitas Airlangga, and you can also follow the Instagram at Duta_UNER or join Telegram at bit.ly/join-Kesatria Airlangga to get informations about webinars and other exciting events organized by the BKK Universitas Airlangga. I'm Brasilia Lucina. I would like to take my leave now. If there are any mistakes made, we really apologize. So see you in another opportunity. Thank you so much, Mr. Lee, for your amazing insight today. Nice to meet you.
Yes, thanks everyone. Thanks for having me as well. Thank you. Yeah, I'll take my leave as well. Right, take care, everyone. Thanks, Priscilla. Thanks to the team as well. Right,
Yes,
see you
thank you
soon.
so much. See you soon.
Bye.
Detak jantungku berdegup tenang, aliran darah mengalir kencang, isi pikiran halu melayang, harummu bikin mabuk kepayang.
Dari sini akal sehat hilang, ingin terbang takut ketinggian, ingin dekat aduh menyenangkan, perasaan hati ingin bilang,
surga itu kamu, surga itu kamu, surga itu kamu. Surga itu kamu, duniawi juga kamu, sumpah mati yang ku mau, cuma sama kamu.
surga itu kamu, duniaku penuh kamu.
Kita bikin mesra, sampai tubuh panas hati dingin. Aduh, bilang-bilang kalau nanti kangen, diam-diam aku pasti kangen.
Mau bilang takut tambah kangen, makin hari makin ingin bilang
Surga itu kamu,
surga itu kamu,
surga itu kamu,
surga itu kamu,
surga itu kamu.
oh kamu.
Surga itu kamu, duniawi juga kamu. Sumpah mati yang ku mau, cuma sama kamu.
Surga itu kamu, duniaku penuh kamu.
Kita bikin mesra sampai tubuh panas hati dingin. Aduh, surga itu kamu, surga itu kamu, surga itu kamu. Surga itu kamu, duniawi juga kamu. Sumpah mati yang ku mau, cuma sama kamu.
Surga itu kamu, duniaku penuh kamu.
Kita bikin mesra
Kita bikin
sampai
mesra,
tubuh panas hati
hati
dingin. Aduh, aduh, aduh. Surga itu kamu, duniawi juga kamu. Sumpah mati yang ku mau, cuma sama kamu.
Surga itu kamu, duniaku penuh kamu.
Kita bikin mesra
Kita bikin
sampai
mesra,
tubuh panas hati
hati
dingin.
dingin.